Indian press under the British rule. The Portuguese were the first Europeans who brought a printing press to India. In 1684, the East India Company set up a printing press in Bombay. The first paper was started in India by James Augustus Hickey and was called the Bengal Gazette 1780, also known as Calcutta General Advertiser. However, all their printing material was seized and they were asked to leave India in 1782. The other papers of the time included Calcutta Gazette 1784, Bengal Journal 1785, Oriental Magazine of Calcutta or Calcutta Amusement 1785, Calcutta Chronicle 1786, Madras Courier 1788, Bombay Herald 1789. These papers didn't criticize the government and therefore the British adopted a soft policy towards them. Censorship of Press Act 1799. Imposed by Lord Wellesley due to threat of French invasion in India. It placed restrictions such that newspapers had to mention the name of the printer, editor and proprietor in every issue, and the publisher had to submit all material for pre-censorship to the Secretary to the government. In 1802, the Act was extended to all magazines, pamphlets, journals, books, etc. Lord Hastings relaxed some of the restrictions in 1818 and the pre-censorship provision was abolished. Licensing Regulating Act 1823. Imposed by John Adams, the acting Governor General. It provided that every printer and publisher had to obtain a license for starting a press or for using it and a penalty of Rs 400 for each publication, without permission, with a rigorous punishment on default. Magistrates would authorize to seal the press and the Governor-General could revoke the license too. Raja Ram Mohan Roy had to stop his paper Miratul Akhbar. Licensing Act of 1857. Also called Three clauses of 1823 Act were restored that had been abolished by Metcalfe. Later in 1870, the Indian Penal Code was amended and it was written that any violation of press regulations. Vernacular Press Act of 1878. Also called the Gagging Act, as it was the only for local or vernacular papers and not English papers. Passed by Lord Lytton, its provisions included District Magistrate, with the previous permission of local government, had to ask printer and publisher of any vernacular paper to enter into an undertaking not to publish anything likely to excite dissatisfaction against the government. Publisher was now required to deposit security, no appeal against this action, no exemption for any vernacular paper. Ishwar Chandra Sagar's Som Prakash stopped by this act. Later, Cranbrew, Secretary of State, was hostile to the idea of pre-censorship, and in 1878 it was done away with. A press commissioner was appointed and the entire act repealed by Lord Ripon in 1882. Newspapers Incitement to Offences Act 1908. It was passed due to the dissatisfaction caused by the unpopular acts of Lord Curzon and the resultant growth of extremism in India. It provided magistrates were empowered to confiscate printing presses and the property connected to these if anything objectionable was printed. Local government was empowered to take away with any declaration made by the printer and publisher of any offending paper. The newspaper's editor could appeal to the High Court against any action of the government but within 15 days. Indian Press Act 1910. It revived the Lytton's Press Act of 1878. A new provision was added wherein the security deposit was increased from Rs 500 to Rs 2000. Press Committee 1921. Under the chairmanship of Sir Tej Bahadur Sapru, law member in Viceroy's Executive Council, it recommended the abolition of the Act of 1908 and 1910. The Indian Press Emergency Act 1931. The main feature of the Act was that if any publication directly or indirectly, any offence of any person, a real or fictitious, the government could seize the press. Press Inquiry Committee 1947. The committee abolished the Emergency Act of 1931.